Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Smart Money Group and Kennedy Financial Services in Eastland, Texas. Tune in every week as we share important information to help you and your family live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, legacy and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
Welcome into Life Planning 101. My name is Angela Robinson with Smart Money Group and Kennedy Financial Services right here out of the big city of Eastland, Texas. And we have another gal from another big city in Wyoming. I'm so excited to have her on. This is somebody that I have just become extremely fond of. I think primarily because she started a business and she runs a business the way we run a business. It's all about the families that she works for, and that servant heart that she puts into everything is absolutely amazing. And I can't tell you how much we're excited to know her and have her kind of as a sidekick to our team. Obviously, we're not married in any kind of way or have our businesses adjoined, but we surely are happy to send business her way because of the way she does business and because she sees things like we do and none other than property and casualty insurance. Now, if you know us at Kennedy Financial Services, you know when we go through those 8 life planning issues and we touch on insurance, we talk about the fact that it is like a piece of Swiss cheese. There are so many holes. It's not a matter of if you have holes, it's a matter how big those holes are, and then trying to make that Swiss cheese American cheese, because it could be the wrong hole if it comes to like your asset protection, right? Where nobody wants to be sued, but we live in a litigious world today, unfortunately. So we are really happy to have somebody that is not only an expert at this, but works across multiple state lines, very well versed. Fact, I think has a little background in some farm and ranch. I'm always talking about her work ethic, so that's where she gets it, I'm pretty sure. But she's very well versed with farm and ranch and business owners, and just excited to have her. So with no other further ado, Corey Slingerland from Mosaic Insurance Group, which is a company that you founded, Corey. And yes. I'll let you talk a little bit about that. So why do you do what you do? Because I mean, in all fairness, I would never do what you do because how hard property and casualty agents have to work when they do it the right way.
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited about this too. And getting to know you guys has been phenomenal. Yeah, I think I do what I do because I'm an empath. And so my drive, I just drive to help people. It's what gets me up in the morning. As you'd mentioned, farm and ranch insurance is really my forte. I am born and raised in Lander, Wyoming. I grew up, my family ranch is Red Canyon Ranch, right in the center of the state. It's a Red Angus cattle ranch. I also grew up on a feedlot that we had. My life has always evolved around agriculture. I was huge into FFA. I showed show calves. Horses are my drive. I always say I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for horses. I started judging horses at the age of 8, which got me, through high school. I got scholarships in college because of horse judging. I ended up traveling all over the world on scholarships and grants from the American Quarter Horse Association, which landed me eventually after I graduated from the University of Wyoming at McQuay Stables in Tioga, Texas, which was a dream of mine. I had Tim McQuay's poster hanging on my wall growing up, and I ended up working side by side with him for 5 years until he decided to semi-retire. And then I just wasn't quite sure what my next step needed to be. I actually applied for a ton of jobs in Dallas-Fort Worth area, looking to become like an equine nutritionist and kind of go that direction. And I just felt kind of lost. I just had my dream job and I was, almost 27 years old and I didn't know what to do. So I ended up having a conversation with my grandpa, who was a lifelong property and casualty agent on the West Coast. So he had a very large brokerage agency. And he said, you're really passionate about farm and ranch. You're really passionate about helping people. I think combining those two things into a career in insurance, I think you would really enjoy it. So it just so happened that the Farm Bureau agent in my hometown in Lander she was retiring. And so I got a hold of her and I said, I don't know anything about insurance. I know I have it on my truck, but I want to do this. And she had been our Farm Bureau agent when I was growing up. And I remember having the meetings with her, sitting in her office when I was little, when we were going through the ranch insurance with her. And I'm like, what person remembers that? So
Yeah.
it just kind of seemed like it was just, my next calling, because I started to, recall all these memories and just became really excited about the opportunity. I ended up interviewing with the manager while still living in Texas via Zoom, just trying to convince him that, yeah, I will move back 1,000 miles north to do this. I probably know everybody in that book of business already. It'll be an easy transition. And sure enough, it was great. So I was at Farm Bureau for just about 4 years, and it really was a great place for me to get on my feet in the insurance industry. And so I did establish a really good business there, taking over the former agent's book and learning everything I needed to know. And then I quickly started to realize that I didn't feel like I was doing the best things for my clients. Our world, especially in agriculture, is really changing. And especially since 2020, a lot of people are having to do more to make money with their farms and ranches. And I noticed that the company I was with just wasn't really a fit for everybody. They just really couldn't cover those extra curricular activities that our ranchers were having to do, getting milk cows to sell milk and growing these big gardens to help, supplement some income. And as you probably know, with the ever fluctuating cattle market, especially between 2020 and now, it's been a little crazy. So anyway, I just started having conversation with a couple other agents that I was close with, just with my feelings of, I just didn't really feel like I was doing the best that I could. This is the only option I have. And then I pretty much just jumped off a cliff and started Mosaic Insurance Group from absolutely zero. I had never worked for a brokerage company before or knew how they operated. I just knew that I could provide more options. So that's where we are.
Yeah. So it's what an incredible story. I know, we have a very similar story. My dad started our business and he actually started with Farm Bureau. So he was banker and then he moved to insurance and he started with Farm Bureau. And same story, when it figured out that this whole being tied to one company is not good because you can't give the right solution to everybody. And in the same way, right? It's a cookie cutter in a sense. So, great segue. What I want to do, I want to take a break. And when we come back, I want to dig into that a little bit because I don't think people understand the difference between captive and non-captive insurance companies. And not that captive insurance companies are bad, but you need to know. You need to know as a consumer. And I wish there was more public information out there about that. But I'd like to jump into that. And, just some of these other things that, we've worked with you on some things over this past year and just being able to see what you see and how you see it and these holes that are out there that I think people really need to understand. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell our audience that we're going to have you on for round 2 because we got a lot of discussion points and there's no way we're going to get through this today, but it's phenomenal because people don't understand. You think I need to get an auto policy. You think I need to get a homeowner's policy. And that's just what I need because someone told me I need to have it. But you don't realize that single policy, if done wrong, could actually ruin you.
Right. Absolutely.
So this is extremely important stuff. And Corey, thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, captive versus non-captive insurance companies. Welcome back to Life Planning 101. My name is Angela Robinson with Smart Money Group and Kennedy Financial Services. I have with me another big city girl, Lander, Wyoming. Anybody knows where that is, just Google it. Corey,
It's the center of the universe. That's what I call it.
Wyoming is beautiful.
Yeah.
Corey Slingerland with Mosaic Insurance Group here talking to us about property and casualty insurance, one of the very foundational pieces of anyone's plan to make sure that they have it right. Why is that, Corey? Why do they need to have it right?
Yes. You need to have it right because you're paying for something that is supposed to protect you. If it's not right, it can ruin you. One thing that we see a lot that I just kind of want to touch on is, people have the capability and the option to get their own insurance online. You can go directly to the company such as Progressive, Geico, those companies. And, we have it in our heads that insurance is something that we can save on. It's a bill we have every month that can be saved.
That's the advertisements. That's what
Yeah,
they tell us.
yeah, save every penny. Well, what we see a lot is people end up getting the state minimum requirements for their state on their liability side, which in Wyoming, the state low liability limits are 25, 50, 25. That last 25 is $25,000. So, an example of what that coverage covers is if you are in an at-fault accident and you damage somebody's now $120,000 Ram 3500, you total that truck, you're out of pocket the difference between 25,000 and 125,000, which is $100,000.
That should be criminal in itself.
Yeah, it can absolutely be, financially crippling. And these are pennies on the dollar. I mean, the difference between getting the minimum that we write at Mosaic Insurance Group is 100, 300, 100, and that's the minimum. And, the difference between those two can be, maybe $100 a year between your state low limits.
Wow.
But, that's just, it's lack of, being educated on insurance and what those limits are actually covering and the difference between liability and full coverage. I can kind of circle back to the difference between captive and a brokerage company. So a captive company provides, they're kind of like, they just have one option. So their option is the option that they have. So they can place your home, your autos, your umbrella, your farm and ranch, but it's just, they've got that one option for you. And that can be fine. That can be great. There's a lot of great captive agencies. There's a lot of great captive agents out there. But the big thing is your agent and yourself knowing, am I just being put inside of this box that this company provides for me? Because, right. Am I being captive into this box that they can provide me? Am I filling all the holes of, these things that I have opened up that could possibly be litigation down the road? Educating yourself on your policy, your lifestyle, and how that fits in the insurance world is so, so important. And like I said, captive can be your fit. That's great. We've also, what I've noticed with a lot of people is they get into this mindset of a bundle. So can you bundle everything for me? I get that question all the time. I can't, because it's not what's best for you. You may need to have your, home insurance with one company, your auto insurance with a different company, your umbrella is with a different company, and that's okay. Whether you're with a captive agency or a brokerage agency, you need to know if we are plugging the holes that could cause, complete financial devastation. So,
and Corey, you said something really important there, because one of the things that, we often see is when people come to us, they actually have not just different companies, but they have different agents. And that's where we get concerned, is that when, someone comes to us, so they got their auto policy here and they've got their homeowners here and they've got, this umbrella and these boat policies and this farm policy, and it's all over the board. And then, the holes that actually end up being exposed from a liability perspective. When I talk about liability, more so, yes, it would be awful if you have to pay for someone's truck out of pocket, but there's also the fact of if you hurt someone,
yes,
and then you have millions of dollars of lawsuits headed your way
Yes.
because you're worth X amount. They know that they can get to you. That's a huge hole. Just to clarify, because you talk about using different companies, but you're one agent.
Yes. Yeah. So it's important to have the same agent. So that's the beauty of having your agent has a brokerage company, because you're still getting that agent that is, insurance can be very invasive. I mean, the questions that we ask as agents, we really need to dig into your life and figure out what is going on. What is most important that we need to protect? Is it your income, your farm and ranch? Is it all of the above? Is it your kids? Is it your future? What does that look like? What are your goals? Meeting with our clients every single year is so important. That we send out review letters, review notices, review checklists, like, hey, any of these things change, because we tend to forget that these can, they go along with your insurance, with your protection. So
Because I feel like people work on I always say it's a don't ask, don't tell situation with their agent. They
yeah.
really do. Their agent doesn't ask a lot. It's all about the cost savings, and they provide what they think they need, and they just ballpark everything. Well, then when we get a hold of it, we're looking at everything. We're like, that's your coverage?
Yeah.
we need to work on this. So
Yeah.
then we call Corey, right?
Yeah. It can definitely be a little bit scary. And, kind of to that point too is, don't insure things that aren't really going to matter. It's like, we want to protect you as a whole. Absolutely. We have a very holistic approach to the way that we do things. But, if you've got a shed on your building that's just falling down and you're not going to rebuild it anyway, you're just praying to God that it does fall down someday. Don't pay the
Don't
premium,
insure it. Yeah. Well, great. No, this is awesome information. So I want to take a quick break, and when we come back, there's been some significant changes just taking place in these last years, and people are seeing their premiums go sky high, and there's it's just a different world, and I'd really like some insight to that. Like I said, we're going to have to bring you back because there's just no way we're going to get through everything. But just excited to have Corey Slingerland from Mosaic Insurance Group right here with us on Life Planning 101. Welcome back to Life Planning 101. With me today is Corey Slingerland from Mosaic Insurance Group. She is knowledgeable all things property and casualty, and there's so much we're not going to get through today because, I know we use you especially when we have multi-state people to make sure that we don't have gaps and overlaps between policies when you're driving from one state to another, for example. But I think you have just been a font of information for our listeners today, Corey. And, one thing I think people are confused right now because property and casualty insurance premiums are going up like crazy. Things are changing vastly. Can you speak to that and just in these final moments, tell listeners what they need to be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, insurance companies are just trying to recoup their losses. So starting in 2019, really, cost of materials skyrocketed, cost of contractors has skyrocketed, cost of used vehicles and parts for used vehicles have skyrocketed, making claims payments much larger than anticipated. Insurance companies save back a certain percentage of money, as they research what claims are costing. But this whole thing, the last 4 years was completely unexpected. So insurance companies are really having to pull back right now so that they can regain their losses, make sure that everybody's covered. They're looking for risks. So the biggest things that you can do is really, really focus on the maintenance of your homes, of your autos, be really diligent about those things. Like a small thing that you can do is if you need a chip repair in your vehicle, just pay for it out of pocket. Save your insurance right now for the big things. This is not going to last forever. We're going to come out of this. But in the meantime, just try to just maintain your homes and your autos, your barns as best as you can to avoid any claims over the next year or so. If your company is offering you a renewal, take it. It's not the time to shop insurance unless you literally cannot afford it, or something has happened where your company is deciding to non-renew your policy. I would just really sit tight. Just kind of let it ride out. I know it's really uncomfortable.
Someone that sells insurance. by the way.
Yeah.
So I told you
Yeah.
this one was honest. I mean, middle of Wyoming,
Yeah.
rancher, farmer, horse person, gotta trust her.
Yep. Sit tight. We'll get through it. It'll get better.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Well, Corey, this has been a font of information. I know for a lot of people today, we're always talking. I know we are talking about property and casualty with our clients and making sure that they're working with someone like you that is looking at their situation from a holistic level, which is so important because
Absolutely.
don't ask, don't tell relationship doesn't work. And the other thing is that you communicate back to us and we keep that chain going. We always talk about being able to, quarterback among all those professionals, whether it be your property and casualty agent, your other insurance agents, your attorneys, CPAs. Everybody needs to know what's going on.
Absolutely.
Because it does overlap significantly. And I can't tell you how many back and forth we have between an attorney and then Corey, right? So, but how often does that really happen? It doesn't. So
No.
just really appreciate you being that team member for us. I know we're not married to you. We're not married to any of these professionals that we work with, but it's a pretty close relationship just because of your culture and the way you do things. And we appreciate what you do for the families we serve. So thank you for that. Corey's going to be highlighted on our newsletter this week. So make sure you are signed up, www.kennedy-financial.com, and you go on to our weekly life lessons. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. If you're missing it, you don't need to be missing it. And make sure you stay tuned at the end of the week for the Black and White Market Chatter coming out by our very own CFA, Aaron Kennedy, and the investment team. So thank you for joining us right here on Life Planning 101. Be sure to join us each and every week with fresh content relevant to what is going on right here and right now to help you live life on purpose.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Smart Money Group and Kennedy Financial Services. If you have questions, you can email them to lifeplanning@kennedy-financial.com. Don't forget to learn how our sister company can assist you with all of your tax, bookkeeping, and consulting needs. You can find out more at briscoeandassociates.com. Be sure to tune in next week for more Life Planning 101. The opinions expressed herein are those of the firm and are subject to change without notice. The opinions referenced are as of the date of publication and are subject to change due to changes in the market or economic conditions and may not necessarily come to pass. Any opinions, projections, or forward-looking statements expressed herein are solely those of the author, may differ from the views or opinions expressed by other areas of the firm, and are only for general informational purposes as of the date indicated. Securities offered through Calton & Associates Incorporated, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Smart Money Group LLC. Kennedy Financial Services and Smart Money Group LLC are separate entities and are not owned or controlled by Calton & Associates Incorporated.